We're going to talk a little history today with Todd Bryant, who is the president of the Norwalk Preservation Trust.
Correct.
Congratulations. Now,
Why, thank you.
You founded this.
Well, my wife and I did, yes,
Why?
along with some other people.
Why?
Well, we discovered that there was a really wonderful old house at the end of our street that was in danger of being demolished. And I was a professional photographer at that time and knew nothing about historic preservation. But it just grabbed me, and we kind of got into it, and we discovered there were a lot of other people that had the same passion. So we formed the Norwalk Preservation Trust. We eventually, along with the state of Connecticut, the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, sued to preserve this house and won.
And what year was this house?
That was, we started in 2000. We became a 501 nonprofit in 2003. Sued in 2005, and I think the case was over in 2010.
So you moved it along. And the
Yeah.
house that you saved was what year?
It was
1800s, 1900s?
Well, the core of it was 1780, built right after the burning of Norwalk, but it appears now it was changed right after the Civil War to be a Second Empire house. So when you see it, it looks like, you know, 1870s.
We have to preserve the past so that we know the future, right?
Absolutely.
I think. All right, so last year you guys mounted a tour.
Right.
Sort of a Mad Men tour of mid-century homes, and it was wildly successful.
Yes, it was.
And guess what? You're going to do it again this year.
It was so great, and it was so well received that we said, you know, we started talking about it, and then we found people on the tour were telling us about other houses. So then we went about and found did some more research. So we now have, we have too many houses again. We're going to have 5 more houses in a church. No repeats from last year.
No repeats. Well, you're probably going to have to keep doing this because everybody loves Mad Men and people love mid-century.
Well, the art direction on that show was stupendous.
Wasn't it awesome? Yeah, for those of us who know that era.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some pictures of the houses that you're going to see on this year's tour. Tell me about this house, Todd.
This house was built in the in 1952. Off of the Princess Pine Road area in Norwalk.
Which is what, that area?
It's a whole area of mid-century modern homes from the, actually mid-century. They were built in the 50s, most of them by one developer. Many of them still have some of them still have the original owners.
Wow.
And this one was designed by William Nathan, who also designed a couple of houses in Village Creek, which is an entirely modern development of modern houses built between 1949 and about 1975.
I have to get in the car and just drive around those neighborhoods. I would find that fascinating. All right, let's look at some more pictures of what folks are going to see. This house.
Okay, this one is kind of a mystery.
Love a mystery. Because
it's built in 1951. It is totally unlike anything anywhere around it. And the owners have been trying to figure out who the architect was for the last 2 years.
And we still don't know?
No.
Well, maybe somebody on the tour is going to figure this out.
I would hope. And via the publicity and the tour, we're hoping that somebody said, oh yeah, that was my Uncle Joe, you know, or something like that.
So they have no idea? It's not in town records or anything?
No, because they weren't required to list the architect. They can't find the drawings. I believe they've been talking to the chief building official to see if the drawings are, you know, maybe in remote storage somewhere.
Oh, I love it. So this is a tour with a mystery.
Absolutely.
Even better.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on.
Okay. Oh, this one. This is the Robert and Gladys Cook house, designed in 1954, and this was designed by Edgar Taffel, who was a student and later associate of Frank Lloyd Wright's.
Does it get better than that?
Yeah, you betcha. And he was the on-site architect for Fallingwater, Wingspread, Johnson Wax, and others.
Wow. Now, are these houses, as people go through them, are they fully furnished and people are living in them?
Oh yeah, people live there.
None of them are for sale?
No, no, these people are astoundingly generous to allow us to get into their houses. And I have to give enormous credit to not only our fabulous board, but our totally unbelievable tour committee of Georgette Blau and Wendy Pardue and Carol Ann Falasco, who put this whole thing together.
Well, they're going to be doing it again, I think. All right, let's look
This
at
is
some
our
more.
9th tour, by the way.
9th tour. See, now this is interesting.
This is designed 1965, designed by Arthur DeSalvo Jr., who was an architect himself. This was his own house, and he designed one of the houses that was on the tour last year.
Are there windows in the front? Because there aren't very many windows on this side.
There's some on the back. It is very secluded. It's not the glass and steel that you would expect for this era. And it's totally different than the house that was on the tour last time, which is much more open. But but this was his house, so.
Very interesting. Continuing on. Now this is a church. This is important.
Yeah.
Now tell me about the church, St. Philip's Church.
This is St. Philip's Church, 1969. It was designed by a parishioner who was also an architect. I have to read these notes because I'll never remember all this stuff. George Lechner, Lyons and Mather, and he won an award in excellence in architecture from a Bridgeport architectural organization, and the idea was to have it more like a tent. So it was it's not as much Bauhaus inspired as it is more inspired by Le Corbusier and the more expressive and concrete-driven forms of modern
Have you been
architecture.
in the church?
Yeah.
Many times. All right, we have one more picture, I think, of an interior. This is in one of the houses.
This is the 12 Alewives again. But this gives you an idea. This guy, who I've not yet met, but this guy is really into it. I mean, look at the
down to the
interior
shag carpeting and everything else.
I mean, it's time travel. You know,
well, I think that's why people are going to go there. So, you've put together many tours in Norwalk. You founded this preservation trust. Right. Do you think people understand how important it is to preserve?
Some do, but not enough, I have to say. There's a lot more interest now than there was, I think, when we started, and it was because people, as we built the momentum for this one preservation battle, people began to understand what they might be losing and how important it was and how deep Norwalk's history was, and the fact that those houses tell the story, and when you lose them, you lose the story.
And they're gone forever, then. Right. So Norwalk is known for mid-century. What else? Give me a little bit of history of Norwalk. Oh,
let's see. We've done tours for buildings in the National Register, which included a mid-century modern house in Village Creek. The Taffel House is also in Village Creek. That was a tech-built prefab house. There are Second Empire houses there's quite a few of those. There's a lot of Queen Anne's.
Any Sears Roebuck houses?
Probably, but we haven't done that.
That's your next tour.
Right.
I dream of sitting in a Sears or Craftsman house with a little porch and just with built-ins.
And it wasn't just them. I mean, there was Aladdin and a couple of other companies that were doing the same thing. And then there's even one Lustron in Norwalk.
Oh, now I don't know this.
The Lustron is a post-war enameled steel prefab house.
Really?
They didn't make them for very long. The unions didn't like them very much. But they were built designed by an aircraft engineer and built in aircraft plants.
Are there many of those around?
No, there are very few. This one is not totally complete, but it does exist, and it is, strangely enough, in Village Creek.
There you go. Again, I've got to get in the car and go see this.
I'll send you the National Register nomination.
Very good. Now, you love history so much, you've gone on to get a degree and do some other things beyond the trust. Tell me about that.
Well, I was a professional photographer at the time, doing annual reports, brochures, and ads, and I loved old houses, but we live in a 1919 house. Never thought about it. And the more we got into it, the more I realized, wow, this is really wonderful. Look at all these different facets. And you can, and there's a business there. So it is possible to do well by doing good, and that's what I try to do.
Do you have the backing that you need to have now? You've been president for, what, 20 years?
Yeah, a little too long.
So now you're looking for a new president at some point.
Yeah. Let us know if you're, no, sorry.
You're right, if anybody wants to hop on board,
interested.
Right? What kind of joy has this kind of preservation brought you?
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, it's a struggle, but I think it's enormously gratifying because you can see the results of your work every day. Or not. I mean, most of the time we win, but we don't always.
And how involved are you with the state in preservation?
Very involved. I mean, the State Historic Preservation Office is the key to everything. That's where all the National and State Register nominations go through them to the Park Service in Washington. All the tax credit projects go through them. They're the keepers of the environmental review that keep developers try at least to keep developers cognizant of what they're dealing with. It's a tremendously important function that they serve. They're all overworked. They do their best, but it's a tough job.
How many, if you have any idea, landmark status do we have of dwellings in this state?
Oh, that's
Thousands?
hard to say. No, well, it depends on what you mean by landmark. Is a very specific term. National Historic Landmark. There are very few. Lockwood Matthews Mansion in Norwalk is an example.
All right.
But there are hundreds, probably thousands of buildings included in the National Register and districts and individually listing.
Well, congratulations to you for putting this trust together 20 years ago.
It wasn't just me. I had a lot of help.
See, that's a sign of a really nice guy. You're thinking others too. And I hope you have a great time on this year's Mad Men Tour, and can't wait to see what you're going to do next year, Todd.
Well, thank you so much, and we can't either. And I just hope everyone goes to norwalkpreservation.org and looks at the tour and signs up for it.
September 22nd.
September 22nd starts at 1, over at 4. There's a wine and hors d'oeuvre reception where, and we also have costumed reenactors who come to the houses and are in character, talk to the tour goers in character.
You've thought of it all. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about it.
Well, thank you for having me, and this has been a tremendous opportunity for us to get this story out.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Spend all night kissing, and if Walter's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing I could find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things to keep locked in the grocery store of my mind. Just to save time, I'll skip right ahead to the last ride.